Our story starts with Hang Xingwang trying to get 2 days off work to deal with a family emergency from his boss, who could not care less if he tried. He even promised to make up for any work he might miss when he returned. He just really needed a few days. Without even looking up from his phone, the manager asserted that their department was short-staffed. Except for special circumstances like funerals, no other leave would be approved. The cause of the manager's distraction was the pretty lady dancing on a live stream. That's right, he's one of those coomers. Not an ordinary one, mind you. The manager was a high roller. The type who donates tons of cash to his favorite streams. As soon as he sent that rocket ship, the live stream burst with energy as the music and dancing got more intense. Meanwhile, Xingwang was still pouring his heart out for his sick mother, who needed someone to take care of her. The cruel manager suggested that Xingwang's father should take care of the mom. If that was not possible, then nearby relatives should take the role. If Xingwang's mother was in critical condition, the request might have been approved. Just then, the pretty lady on the stream thanked her big brother, the manager, for sending a rocket worth a lot of money. Seeing this bum of a boss who does not care about the well-being of his employees, Xingwang's anger rose. With his condescending tone, the manager insisted that Xingwang should make a few sacrifices to climb the ladder instead of making excuses to leave. In their new media industry, timeliness is crucial. If someone breaks the news first, their department's performance will suffer. So, Xingwang proposed working from home while staying in touch the whole time. But the manager was too unforgiving for that. He was tired of persuading Xingwang and just outright told him to quit. All he had to do was settle up with finance and get out. Unfortunately, Xingwang graduated from a third-tier university, and the company had just taken him in due to demand. Most of their applicants were from first-tier universities, and he had always been expendable. Trends won't wait, and neither will his job. The manager strongly advised Xingwang to think it over before he insisted on leaving again. So, that's precisely what he did. Xingwang lit up a cig and thought. His deliberation was interrupted by the blaring noise of his phone's ringtone. On the other end of the line was his dad asking if he could come back home. You see, Mom's medical fees haven't been settled yet. The hospital had been flexible enough, but any more delays would be a problem. Dad had been making excuses for a few days now, and the hospital was putting its foot down for the payment. They could either pay up or be discharged. This understandably put Dad in a very tough position. On the other end of the line, Xingwang was starting to catch the vibe that his dad was hiding some serious financial problems back home. He asserted that he would be back in a few days and would help with the medical fees. But being a traditional man, Dad assured him that he had already borrowed some funds from friends and relatives along with the medical insurance to cover everything. Still, Xingwang wanted to cover the shortfall, as he didn't want his family to owe anything to relatives. As the eldest son, he wanted to handle this financial mess. However, Dad did not want to burden his newly graduated son with working in a city with a high cost of living. He just wanted Xingwang to live for himself and not worry about them back home. Well, he's been working for a year and a half with a monthly salary of $5,000. He shares a bunk bed with a roommate and lives a frugal life. Despite that, he only managed to save $50,000. At least this much should be enough to cover the debts from his mom's medical expenses for a while. Hang Xingwang had lived for over 20 years without stepping out of line. Today, he was going to change that. He steeled his resolve to resign from a crappy, inhumane company and take his talents elsewhere. So, his next destination was the Human Resources Department. 20 minutes later, his status had been officially changed to unemployed. He did it out of his own will, but not having a job anymore painted a bitter smile on his face. In this current job market and economic climate, quitting his livelihood without another job lined up was reckless, to say the least. But he was bailed out upon unlocking the ultimate freedom system for deciding against his ancestors' wishes. Quitting his job rewarded Xingwang with 88,088 yuan, or approximately $12,000. Xingwang stopped in his tracks. He was just minding his own business when the golden text prompt appeared in front of him. At first, he thought someone was playing a video on full blast nearby, to the point of buzzing inside his brain. But the interface in front of him explained that he should check his reward money and indulge freely. The more he spends, the more money he can get. The rich get richer. With his shaking hands, he carefully took his phone out of his pocket. The notification read that 88,888 yuans had been successfully deposited into his account. At first, the skeptic in him wondered if this was some type of new age scam or something. But the text message was official, and the money in his account had actually increased. With 138,888 yuan to his name, his painstakingly saved up funds had ballooned. The system assured its master not to doubt his awakening. All he had to do now was start living it up to his heart's content. Xingwang would never have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. After checking his account, he actually found the mentioned amount of money in his account. There was no doubt now, he had really awakened the system. Now, all that was left was to figure out how everything worked and see if this system of absolute freedom could really help him. It was necessary to test everything in practice. His thoughts were interrupted by a woman's voice asking what he was thinking about. The girl who called out to him was Howen, a blogger with 8 million fans. She wanted to know if he'd prepared her stream schedule. Howen had 8 million fans for a reason. Her beauty and charm had tremendous power. At the sight of her, Xingwang's thoughts drifted away, and he didn't even hear what she said. Noticing his confusion, Howen asked if he finally saw his older sister as a girl. Xingwang took it as a joke as usual. Throwing herself at him, Howen said that she needed more operational resources, because recently, the highest-paying fans had been paying less. Before that, Xingwang had always managed her streaming broadcasts. Online, she was known as the most attractive dance goddess. In real life, however, she was quite friendly and not arrogant at all. Also, her flaw as well as her strength was that she liked to joke around. That had been the case before, but now he had quit and wasn't responsible for it. He informed Howen that the company would find her another manager. The girl worriedly asked why he had made such a sudden decision. Xingwang sympathized with her to some extent. Although she didn't look down on others, she treated him even better because he was her operator in the company. He was also the easiest person for her to work with. But now their roads were parting, and there was nothing to add here. In our hero's opinion, he finally became fully aware of reality, but Howen did not plan to give up so easily. Using her witchy, sorry girl charms, she said she preferred to work with him and wouldn't trust anyone else. Xingwang's sanity was gone in an instant. He realized that he was charmed, but he wasn't going to lose so easily. At the same time, Howen was trying to understand why Xingwang was acting so strange today. Usually, he always played along with her, but not this time. In a saddened voice, she asked if he really wanted to leave her. This might have worked on the old Xingwang, but now our hero was a completely different person. He wasn't going to be fooled by her pretense. Xingwang replied that he wanted to take a long vacation. Howen started trying to seduce him with her charm again, and to be honest, she was quite good at it. Xingwang was having a hard time. However, it was already a foregone conclusion. He had a system with which he could become a billionaire. With that kind of money, he could get 10 of these beauties. After finally coming to his senses, Xingwang replied that Howen should fix her nose makeup, as it looked a little crooked to him. Howen, who had never heard such a thing in her life, was shocked. It seemed impossible to her, but she rushed to check it out in person anyway. Eventually, Howen began to think that Xingwang's words were true, and her makeup on her nose was indeed a bit crooked. The broadcast was going to start soon, so there was very little time to fix this. At the same time, a system notification appeared in front of Xingwang, in which the system expressed its admiration for his determination. He refused to be a chained dog and was able to express his sincere feelings. For this, he received a reward of 23,000 wen. Xingwang was once again shocked. He had done such a small thing and already received such a large sum. What could he get if he made his former boss crawl on his knees? But it was too early to think about that for now. Just like last time, he received the money into his account again. His balance was already 162,000 yen. Now Xingwang understood what absolute freedom meant. Now he could no longer be afraid to be himself. He could do whatever he wanted and get paid for it. What could be better than that? That day another devil was born on Earth. The beauty actually thanked him for pointing out her crooked nose. She also accepted that he was going his own way now, but was looking forward to a chance to work together in the future. This gorgeous woman actually wished him the best for his career instead of acting furious for being exposed. She was way too calm. Xingwang wondered if she was faking this nice act, or if she was just like this naturally. In addition, she even invited him to a farewell dinner treat for mentoring her on the technical side of things for so long. Howen even offered to help him look for a new job with her connections to some industry bosses, believing in his top-notch skills. With the time they spent together before, she knew that he did not come from the best university. Maybe she was not conniving at all. Perhaps she was actually a decent human being. So, Xingwang reversed the invitation and offered to treat her to dinner instead. She was naturally worried that he would be struggling financially, though. He laughed and used his departure as an excuse to stop being stingy. They might work together in the future, so this dinner could be considered an advance thanks. She smiled as she realized that he was already leaving when they hadn't had the chance to know each other at all. Since Xingwang had already packed up and was ready to head out, dinner after work should be perfect. Xingwang exited the building with a livelier pep in his step. He was born anew and was ready to experience the world on a whole new level. Before, if he could walk, he would never take the bus or subway. If he could take public transport, he would never take a taxi. If he worked overtime until 11, he would share a ride with someone. But looking at his bank account and the endless possibilities that had opened up to him, that might start to change. Even sharing rides in the dead of the night was a luxury for him in his daily life. So today, he would take the most expensive ride on the app and splurge properly on what he could not afford before. It did not take too long for a clean-looking silver car to pull up near him. The driver was personable and even wore a suit. This is what you get if you order a DD Premium ride. Xingwang's system quietly rewarded him with another 50,000 for being generous and taking a ride without looking at the price. Looking at the car, its sleek lines and the smooth sound of its engine could make anyone's blood boil with excitement. He remembered waiting for other people to share a ride with him, sometimes until after midnight, just to save a few bucks. His current situation was light years away from that. He had truly made a gigantic leap in social class. From today onwards, he would be a different person. The driver smiled and politely directed him to get in the car. His destination was confirmed to be the Baoxing Road intersection, a place called Liaoxiang Janbing Pancake Shop to be specific. Upon confirmation, the driver stepped on the gas and drove to the location. In the back seat, Xingwang gladly enjoyed the feeling of acceleration in an expensive vehicle. Smoke billowed from the tailpipe, and the driver showed off his impressive driving skills. With their speed, it did not take too long to reach Xingwang's destination. He got out of the car with a newfound sense of self, confident to take on anything now that he had unlocked a cheat code for reality and capitalism. The elderly lady working in the pancake shop practically knew him at this point. She also knew that his order was usually a janbing without egg and sausage, but this time was different. He wanted the egg. In fact, he could afford all the eggs he wanted, but 2 should be enough. Also, he wanted 2 pure meat sausages, none of those lousy starch sausages. The people around him were impressed by his lavish order. When Xingwang had a monthly salary of 5,000, he spent 800 on rent and limited himself to 20 yuan a day on food. An 8 yuan plain jianbing saved him from starvation multiple times, but he never dared to add eggs. Today, he could go all out and splurge on a meal. Just lining up to eat something worth 15 yuan was already a level up for Xingwang. He wanted the people around him to feel envy and jealousy as soon as they saw his 2 eggs and pure meat sausage. That's precisely what happened. The ladies blushed, and the dudes wondered when they could flex their eggs and sausages like this. This little stunt of making a significant leap from his impoverished living standards earned him another 20K from the system. Walking away from the stall while munching on good food, Xingwang enjoyed the beautiful afternoon with a satisfied smile on his face. He promised himself that he would add 5 eggs to his order next time. Back in his days as a student, Xingwang was so broke that he could not afford any kind of entertainment. After he got into the workforce, not only did he not have enough money, but he also lost all his time. These days, he doesn't even know what normal people do to be entertained. Walking aimlessly, he found himself near a familiar building. Suddenly, an idea struck inside his head like Jimmy Neutron having a brain blast. How could he forget about it? Now that he had plenty of money, he could live like one of those rich pricks who shop at the mall without looking at price tags. He still needed to treat Howen to dinner tonight, and as far as he knew, high-end restaurants pay close attention to dress codes these days. His current wardrobe just won't cut it. The quality of his clothes is not nearly up to rich society's standards. So he entered the shopping mall and resolved to do what he had never gotten to do. Amidst the crowd, he looked at the shops and their storefronts in boundless confusion. He had unknowingly entered one of those massive malls filled with the scent of luxury. Every store had brand names written in English, and he could barely understand what he was looking at. Xingwang came into this place with the intention of splurging cash, and now he didn't even know where or how to start. He immediately tried to find a familiar brand, something like Adidas, but those kinds of stores weren't up to this mall's standards. Xingwang stopped himself from looking around cluelessly like a bumpkin. Despite his cheat code in life, he was still looking at things small-mindedly when he could just go all out without consequences. He was attracted by the premium-looking storefront of Louis Vuitton. The attendants inside the store took note of the new customer and pushed the task of assisting Xingwang to one another. The senior attendant clocked Xingwang as soon as he entered the establishment. Her rich experience in customer service led her to assess the young man by his current getup. His hair wasn't professionally styled. He was wearing a bunch of junk. His phone was an old model, and most of his clothes were discount goods from street stalls. In other words, a broke boy had been spotted. The attendants had a non-verbal agreement to not assist someone who would never be able to afford what they were selling. Hang Xingwang slowly caught up to this fact when he entered, and not a single attendant attended to him. Sure, he admitted that he might look like a broke boy right now, but their snobbishness was too obvious and nefarious. So he spoke up and explained that he was tired from work and didn't have time to browse. He just wanted to pick something worth 150,000 and be done with his shopping. But since these pompous sales ladies wanted to waste his time by acting high and mighty, maybe he would just go to the Hermes store next door. Hearing his threat, the attendants were alarmed. They might have foolishly misread a customer. So, every single attendant quickly flocked towards the young man. They showered him with pretty smiles while asking what he was looking for. Some even offered to sit him down and have some tea while browsing through the store's collection. This was one of the first instances of Xingwang learning that money really does talk, and it speaks volumes. By the time he was done shopping, he was already dripped out with flashy new clothes. His aura had undoubtedly gone up. He also learned that the service for wealthy people in luxury stores was undoubtedly first class. You don't even have to carry your bags, someone carries them for you. The girl assigned to carry his stuff cheerfully and politely invited him to participate in a jewelry appreciation event at the end of the month, and he promised to come if he had time. She also proposed that they could just have his bags delivered to his residence for convenience. He refused to do it that way as he preferred to do things himself. With that said, he took the bags from the lady. With a refreshing smile and brilliant energy, the lady wished him well respectfully. On the way out of the shopping mall, Xingwang overheard some ladies talking about not being able to afford staple luxury brands like LV and Hermes. He looked at his wardrobe pickups and smiled. Yesterday, he wouldn't even dream of buying something so expensive. Today, he couldn't wait to spend more. The system watched him spend 3 years' worth of his previous salary in one go. This was his first big sum achievement, and it came with a 660,000 yuan reward, or approximately $90,000. Indeed, spending more leads to earning even more. From being a penny-pinching broke boy, he was now only a little bit away from becoming a millionaire. All he needed to do was work hard and live it up luxuriously. Xingwang now could not be stingy, and if before he would choose some cheap fast food, now he chose the most expensive restaurant in the city, Lingwei Western. For such a restaurant, our hero of course dressed appropriately, His appearance, probably for the first time in his life, was bright and luxurious. At the entrance, he was immediately met by a beautiful waitress, and she offered to guide the Honorable Mr. Hang to the reserved private room. Xinguang arrived a little early, and Haowen was still busy with her work, so he was going to wait for her at the entrance. But the waitress assured him that there was no need for important guests like him to wait here. The private room was separated from the main hall, and he could relax there, have a couple of desserts while he waited for his friends. Such a reception in such a prestigious place was quite unusual for Xinguang. Indeed, clothes make the man. When he entered this private room, the desserts and tea were already on the table, and he could help himself. If he wanted anything else, he could just ring the bell. The waitress wasn't going to disturb our hero's rest, and he could enjoy his meal. The view from the private room was really breathtaking. The evening city was especially good. This was the first time Xinguang had seen the city from the height of the 40th floor. In today's day, our hero had firmly convinced in practice that as long as one had money, he could enjoy the best service. And what's more, as long as you have money, you can stand at heights inaccessible to others. Now all those long-held fantasies and dreams that Xinguang had could finally come true. But before all that, he hurriedly transferred some money home, a little so as not to shock his father. It was only 100,000. If his father had any questions about the origin of the money, our hero could simply justify that it was savings from a part-time job. It would be believable, and his father and mother wouldn't be too shocked. While our hero was relaxing at the restaurant, Haowen was sweating and working hard. She was performing custom dances, and the donations were pouring in, giving her no time for rest. There's a reason her broadcasts got so many views, you know what I mean. Xinguang forwarded the location and the name of the restaurant. But of course she didn't read the messages because she was live streaming. Fans sent her one donation rocket after another, and Haowen was grateful to them all. But it was time to wrap it up. That was all for today, and viewers will be able to see the follow-up tomorrow. Finally, this madness was over, and a tired and sweaty Haowen could sit down and rest. Unfortunately, such a desirable moment of rest for her did not last long. Almost immediately, her friends came over. They wanted to go out to dinner together. Haowen had to disappoint them, as she had her own plans for the evening. One of her friends immediately suspected that something was going on, and Haowen was keeping a very important detail from her. Who was she going to have dinner with? Did she have a serious rich fan? Haowen had to disappoint her. She should stop talking nonsense. She already knows this guy herself. It's just Xinguang. The friends were surprised that Haowen still thinks about this loser and agreed to meet him after he left work. She definitely has feelings for him, no matter how hard she tries to hide it. Haowen again advised them to stop talking nonsense. She's just grateful to him that Xinguang helped her a lot when he was an operator at the company. Now that he's left the company, it's just a farewell dinner. Besides, he'll treat. Hearing the key word that he would treat, the girls also wanted to go with her. It wasn't a date, so Haowen didn't mind. Besides, they would probably eat something simple, and it wouldn't be too expensive for Xinguang. But if the friends wanted something expensive, they would pay for it separately. The blonde-haired friend was fine with it. She had a long day and was willing to treat herself a little. Xinhua wanted to go too, and didn't want to take advantage of others at all. At least that's what she said. In fact, Xinhua just knew that Xinguang was so stingy that he didn't even add an egg to his pancake. She was very curious about what kind of fancy restaurant he could take them to for dinner. Of course, Haowen couldn't read the minds of her greedy friends, so she suggested they meet in the parking lot after she took off her makeup. Soon they walked down to the parking lot together, where Haowen's brand new car was parked. That evening, they were lucky and no one blocked it. Jian Qingqing had to admit that it had become difficult for her to get advertising contracts recently, and she didn't know when she would be able to buy a similar car. Haowen suggested that she try to become a dance streamer, but Jian Qingqing knew herself too well. It was too tiring for her. After all, she didn't have the stamina like Haowen to dance from morning to night. Instead, her strategy was to wait for good big brother to propose to her and pull her out of this damned industry. Xinhua immediately brought her down to earth. Jian Qingqing wanted too much. In their industry, it's good enough not to get taken advantage of by big brothers, yet she dreams of someone from them to save her. Jian Qingqing just wanted to dream a little. Xinhua had nothing against it. She could dream all she wanted. But could she be so naive and believe that Haowen had bought herself a fancy car just by dancing on the streaming service? Xinhua was sure that she must have slept with many big brothers. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have become a top 1 company star. Definitely not just because of her cute look. Finally, Xinhua came to her senses after all her dirty guesses and asked where they were going to have dinner. As soon as Haowen pulled out her phone to check, she just froze with a strangely startled expression on her face. It was smugly remarked by Xinhua, certain that the place was so shabby that even her love-struck friend was shocked. But she was wrong. The place they were invited to was called Lingwai, and there was a restaurant with the same name. It was located in the Jingwu building. This restaurant was known for being a super famous and popular restaurant with 3 Michelin stars. Even the most modest dinner in such a place cost over 3,000 per person. But even that wasn't the main problem. It was the fact that it was very difficult to get a reservation because of the popularity of the place. Jian Qingqing found it hard to imagine that a cheapskate like Hang could invite them there. Could it be that he had secretly got a promotion, and that was why he quit his previous job? Shinuo assumed it was just some cheap restaurant in the same building. Some people like to post locations near famous places to show off and confuse others. Hao-en didn't believe her jealous friend and advised her not to be so quick to judge. As far as she knows, Hang is not that kind of vain person. But Shinuo was still sure that Hang would soon embarrass himself and Hao-en would change her wrong opinion of him. Finally, they got into the car and agreed to go and see. Through the night city with no traffic, they drove quite fast. Jan Qingqing had to admit that Hao-en's new car was stable and had strong shock resistance, what her old car could not boast of at all. Shinuo was more restrained in her reaction. She even advised her friend to take advantage of her opportunities. She is a beauty blogger, and there are many rich people on her live streams from whom she could get some resources. All she needs to do is lower her collar a little and use soft voice. Then the gifts will fall on her. No matter it's dance or beauty, all she has to do is lower her standards a little, and the rich fans will send rockets of gifts. Then Jan Qingqing won't have to worry about getting advertising contracts. However, Jan Qingqing herself did not like such offers at all. Besides, most of her viewers were girls. Shinuo was not going to insist. If it suits her and she can earn money without resorting to such methods, then let it stay that way. It's not like anyone wants to resort to such a thing for nothing. Shinuo also wished that some rich guy would actually want to marry her, and then she would be ready to become a full-time housewife with no regrets. The only thing that was bothering her now was that Hao-en was silent. Was she really looking down on all of them? But as soon as she thought about it, Hao-en spoke up. She thought a little differently. If a couple is together only because of momentary attraction, and the girl is not financially independent, then she will be in a vulnerable position in the family, and will have no right to speak. And then the way the rich guy lives with her will be the same way he might live with someone else. So as long as a man has money, he will always have young girls around him that he can change at will. This was not a situation Hao-en wanted to be in. To Shinuo, her words did not sound very honest. She wished Hao-en would stop pretending to be all high and mighty. After all, she actually dances more provocatively than anyone else on her live streams. In reality, Hao-en just wanted to be self-reliant and earn as much as she could while she still could. A man might betray her, but money never. Finally, they arrived at the parking lot beneath the restaurant, and Hao-en stepped forward confidently. But Jan Qingqing hurriedly stopped her, eager to double-check the location of the place Hang had invited them to once again. Even with Hao-en's high monthly income, she probably wouldn't want to spend a lot of money here. What if Hang just gave her the wrong address? Shinuo agreed with her completely. It was embarrassing for her to walk into a high-end restaurant and then shamefully leave because they didn't have a reservation there. What if one of their viewers recognized them and posted a video of it online and then they would lose followers? So Hao-en decided to call Hang to find out for sure, but all she got was a dial tone and Hang didn't answer. Shinuo smugly mentally laughed at her, certain that it was solely Hao-en's fault that she was hanging out with show-offs and getting dragged into this. Hao-en, on the other hand, thought Hang was just busy and therefore not responding. Shinuo put on her good friend mask again and suggested that something might have happened. In any case, Hang wouldn't mess with her on purpose, right? So it's still worth going upstairs and checking since they're here. Shinuo was just curious to see this top 1 restaurant and how the story with Hang would end up. Hao-en invited her friends to take the elevator, thinking that Lingwei is a very expensive restaurant. Even though she can afford it, Hang with his small salary probably can't. There's a reason he's usually so stingy. Lingwei would be too much of a waste for him. What if he was just kidding? In that case, she would have to pay for the entire dinner herself. Approaching the entrance, Hao-en hesitantly looked around from around the corner. When she didn't see him in the main hall, she started to panic. Why wasn't Hang answering the phone? She tried again and again, but nothing changed. Suddenly, a waitress approached them from behind and asked if they had a reservation. Hao-en wasn't sure what to answer, but Shinuo answered instead, confidently saying yes. Now Hao-en had no choice but to say that the reservation should be under the name Hang Xingwang. Shinuo continued to gloat, knowing that the salary of an operator in his company was only 5,000. One dinner at this restaurant could cost him 3 months' salary, and she just couldn't wait to see how Hao-en would bear the blow of the harsh reality. But suddenly, against all her expectations, the waitress invited them to follow her, because Mr. Hang had been waiting for them for a long time. Shinuo was simply speechless. Is this really real? As the waitress led them to the private room where Hang was waiting for them, Shinuo couldn't stop envying how lucky Hao-en was. The company gives her resources, and she firmly occupied the position of top 1, leaving everyone far behind. Shinuo herself had to settle for second position, but as if that wasn't enough, there are all kinds of suckers trying to gain Hao-en's attention. Even a stingy loser like Xingwang was ready to spend so much for her. Shinuo was sure that in the end he would end up with no money and no girl, but she wished she could be in Hao-en's shoes. But then Shinuo would definitely not give even a chance to someone who pretended to be rich. The waitress led them to the elevator and sent them to the highest floor. Now Jan Qingqing was really starting to worry that someone else with the same name as Hang might be waiting for them there. It was even hard for her to imagine how embarrassing it would be if they misunderstood everything. As far as she knows, this elevator here is strictly for the VIP clients, to make it convenient for them to get to the top floor with private rooms. It's just that the price of booking such a room goes up to 10,000 per person for the evening. Now Shinuo was sure that someone else with the same name was waiting for them there. In her opinion, this was too much for Xingwang. He would have to spend his entire 3-month salary, and that's if he didn't eat or drink anything. Even if it was actually him, she was curious to see how he would handle himself when he saw that the three of them had come. One thing she had to admit though, this Xingwang is really smart since he picked the moment when someone with the same name reserved a seat in the restaurant and invited them here just to show off. But this whole show would soon be over, and she would bring him out. Finally, they arrived at the 40th floor, where a nice waitress who looked much better than the three of them invited them to come through and be seated. The only thing that bothered Howen was that Xingwang was not to be seen here. But Qingqing wasn't upset about it and immediately started taking pictures in such a luxurious restaurant. It was not allowed to take pictures in the lobby, but it was still possible to take pictures in the private rooms. Qingqing decided that whether they dined here tonight or not, if she managed to take good pictures, it would be considered a good night as if she had dined here. Xinuo did not share her enthusiasm and was in no hurry to join her. Qingqing was going to publish these photos later. After all, no one would know under what circumstances she had gotten here anyway. Xinuo continued to be not satisfied. She still thought that Xingwang was just a rascal who invited guests and didn't come himself, just like she expected. Qingqing was having a more pleasant time, recognizing that she had never dined at such an expensive restaurant in her life, and realizing that she might not get another chance, used it to the fullest to take more photos. Xinuo finally ran out of patience and demanded Howen to tell her what Xingwang had said to her. She didn't want her friend to make a fool of herself if it turned out to be a misunderstanding. Howen was also beginning to doubt that an ordinary office worker could afford to dine at such a place. She was about to leave when a waitress came to one door and started to wake Mr. Heng, who was sleeping there. Xinuo gloated that she knew it and now Howen would be humiliated. But Xingwang dashed all her hopes. He had just waited so long for them that he fell asleep, and when he woke up he saw 4 or 5 missed calls. And now he hoped they hadn't at least waited too long for him. He immediately told the waitress to start serving. To the girls, his change in appearance from a poor guy in a hoodie to a rich guy in designer clothes was startling, especially for Howen, who didn't even know what to say. Qingqing immediately estimated that his branded clothes cost quite a lot. The jacket alone cost over $5,500. Xinuo was just flaming with envy and couldn't understand how this guy could be so rich in reality. Had he inherited money from a rich relative? It made her angry that such a loser was so lucky, and it made her even angrier that he was so skillful at hiding it all. Xingwang greeted Howen first and only then her friends. Qingqing he recognized immediately, but Xinuo didn't, and she had to introduce herself. Of course she tried to use all her charms, but our hero was not impressed at all. He remembered her video with beauty filters and was surprised that in reality she was so different. Xinuo tried to justify that it was because of her light makeup today, but inside she was just furious at her defeat. Of course no one saw this, and Howen nonchalantly explained that she took her co-workers with her after work. But if he minded, they could leave. Just at that moment, a bunch of waiters came in with lots of dishes. Of course the most expensive ones in the restaurant, which quite surprised Howen. Looking at the expensive wine, she realized that at this rate, even she wouldn't be able to afford to pay for such a dinner. She still couldn't understand what Xingwang was doing and why she was wasting money like this. Qingqing honestly shared that she envied him because he must have inherited some family business and therefore could afford to quit his job and have such a fancy dinner. But Howen wasn't sure and couldn't confirm her friend's guess. Looking at the feast in front of him, Heng Xingwang was deeply disappointed. He did not have an appetite for this yuppie food. It looked nice, but it was too uppity for him. Excited, Zhen Qingqing asked for permission to take the first photo of the feast. Xingwang graciously let her do her thing. Being a content creator herself, Qingqing was quite a good photographer, and the pics were fire. Feeling sketched out by the situation, Q Xinuo asked Howen what was really going on and why this guy had so much cash. Well, Howen and Xingwang were never really close. Apart from work-related stuff, they had never interacted. He was responsible for a few effective marketing campaigns though. She even recalled seeing him live modestly. But maybe he was just a low-profile, pragmatic, and rich second-generation son of some conglomerate. He probably did not want a girl to pay for the meal, so he decided to reveal his real wealth. Still unsatisfied with the delectable food on the table, Xingwang called the waitress to request something more down-to-earth and filling. Qingqing enthusiastically backed him up, agreeing that expensive meals aren't even filling. They just look good for photos if you're a socialite. The waitress suggested slow-cooked black truffle beef ribs, pineapple monkfish liver, and many more exotic cuisines with names that were far too complicated. Just hearing these names was killing his appetite. He just wanted something cooked in intense heat. Some imported crab, imported beef, and lamb cut into chunks should do. The girls had never seen someone act and order like this in a high-end restaurant. Annoyed, Xinuo interjected that they should not have come to a French restaurant if he wanted comfort food. She was starting to think that he did not come from a rich family but had recently acquired wealth as a nouveau riche instead. Xingwang continued adding to his order, tacking on grilled kidneys and barbecue skewers like he was in a street stall. The waitress had to hurriedly apologize as she insisted that they only serve the restaurant's set menu items. That's when Xingwang requested the manager, as this was above the waitress's pay grade. In her experience working in this respected establishment, she had never seen someone so brazen. A few moments later, a pudgy man wearing glasses came in and introduced himself as the manager of the place. Just like the waitress, he apologized as they wanted to uphold their name as a French restaurant. Seeing the young man get denied made Xinuo very happy, even calling Xingwang a bumpkin in her head. He noticed her little smirk and took note of it. Still, he really wanted to have a barbecue in a French restaurant. So he offered 300,000 for the meal and promised an extra 50,000 as a tip if his requests were met. Hearing the massive figure he had just dropped, the manager had to make a judgment call. Even the girls were slack-jawed after hearing such a ridiculous offer. They watched as the dignified manager turned into an obedient puppy while asking the VIP for any more requests. Seeing the manager cave to his demands, Xingwang promised to gift him some kidney sashimi to commemorate his lost defiance. Looking dependable as hell, the manager promised to instruct the kitchen right away. The system saw him act thick-skinned, disregarding dining etiquette and making the restaurant change its rules, and it granted him 500,000 as a reward. This system was really proving itself handy when it came to saving internal conflicts. He told the girls that dining should be about relaxation and getting full, so they should do it right. Qing joyfully agreed. She was looking forward to uploading pics of street food served in a high-end restaurant, expecting more clout. After a few minutes, the servers entered the private dining room and slowly carted in the orders. Although it was supposed to be normal street food, the restaurant managed to make it look delectable. Seeing this impressive spread of meals, Qing became certain that money talks no matter what the situation was. She was just itching to let everyone know that she had barbecue skewers at a 3-star Michelin French restaurant on the top floor of the tallest building in Beijing. Finally, the VIP and the ladies could start their dinner. By the time they were done, sticks were neatly stacked on the table, and the skewered meats had nearly been devoured fully. Xingwang gracefully wiped his mouth and excused himself, saying he needed to go to the restroom. As soon as he got up from the table, the ladies started speculating about how wealthy he really was. His outfit alone must have cost at least $22,000. Qing proposed the idea that he just worked at the production company because he wanted to get close to Haowen, but she thought he was just trying to be low-key and work a normal job. And now that he's out, he doesn't care anymore. Normal people could not help but be envious that some rich second-generation heirs get to experience life however they want. Morbidly curious, Sinuo asked Haowen if she was moved by the spending and if she liked Xingwang. If you asked Qing, she would definitely say yes. Being lavishly treated and spent on just for dinner would make her heart flutter. Sinuo reckoned that Haowen must have already known about Xingwang and was keeping him to herself. That she wasn't interested in her top donor because she had her sights on a bigger fish all along. But she swore that she had no idea. They were not even close when they worked together. They never had any private interactions. And she had no idea that he was this loaded before tonight. All she knew was that Xingwang had a great work ethic. He was ambitious and hardworking, often doing overtime. Sinuo accepted that Haowen really had no idea. She also raised the possibility that all these flexes were fake. Many people pretend to be wealthy to impress girls. Some livestream top donors do the same. These people would even go as far as going into debt to spoil their girls. If that were really the case, Qing would have liked to commend Xingwang for his acting skills. This witch, Sinuo, was suddenly struck with the idea of verifying whether the boy was really wealthy or just faking it. Haowen quickly shot down the intrusive idea. That boy treated them to an interesting and expensive dinner. The least they could do was to stop doubting whether he was a fraud. Sinuo explained that Haowen was underestimating her value to a man. A normal person could gain a lot by being connected to a popular streamer these days. That's how manipulative people operate. They charm you in, make you feel special, and once you're emotionally invested, they show their true colors, and it would be too late to get out at that point. Haowen had no intention of pursuing anything romantic with a work friend just because she was taken out for dinner though. Sinuo finally put her foot down and told the other ladies to just follow her lead as they verified his status. The party of 4 wrapped up dinner and headed for the parking area. If Xingwang was really faking his wealth, then Haowen would gladly cover all expenses tonight. She didn't want a hardworking man to go down such a deceptive path. She genuinely believed that there was nothing wrong with an honest and simple life. Qing broke the silence by asking Xingwang if he had a girlfriend. He honestly confessed that he had been single since birth, eternally alone in the romance department. She was surprised by that answer. She must have been expecting him to answer like a player. But Xingwang was so focused on his career that he hardly had time to think about dating. Being a corporate slave was demanding enough, but at least he got paid. If you add being a lovesick fool to that, it would be too much trouble. Just thinking about taking care of another person while he could barely take care of himself was horrifying. Since it was only 5 minutes past 9, Sinuo proposed that they continue the evening at a bar. She even offered to treat them to a few drinks. She was a regular at Fugue Bar, a bar full of internet celebrities where they could network. Not seeing any harm in it, Xingwang agreed. And so, they drove to their next destination. Xingwang looked at Haowen by his side and could not help but think. Now that he had some capital to invest, maybe he could open his own media company in the future. His background in running operations might help in that field. Plus, he could get acquainted with internet celebrities. In doing so, he could be the next titan of the industry, with all kinds of assets in his hands. Upon arriving at the bar, Sinuo gave them a heads up that she could only afford about 2 drinks for each person. That was not a problem for the party at all. This night was just about going out and having fun. In the parking lot, all kinds of luxury vehicles were lined up. Their drivers were naturally wealthy. Meanwhile, Xingwang was just excited to enter the famous Fugue Bar he had heard so much about. As soon as they got inside, They were greeted by the blaring music performed by a live DJ, hyping up the crowd. In booths and on the dance floor, there was all kinds of touching that was not very YouTube-friendly. The party of 4 settled in one of the empty booths to have their drinks. Shinwo ordered a margarita and urged everyone to get whatever they wanted. Ching got the pink lady, and Howen ordered a non-alcoholic lime mojito as she still had to drive afterward. Shinwo quietly observed what Xingwang would order. She was starting to see the look of someone who had never been to a bar. When she snapped him out of his daze for the order, Xingwang just waved his hand and told her that anything would be fine. Since that was the case, Zinuo got him a Long Island iced tea, a strong drink perfect for making someone spill the truth while drunk. This witch was really locked in to prove that someone was broke. The music was loud and the people were lit, drunk, and having fun on the floor. While enjoying their respective drinks, Zinuo brought up a special bartender named Danny, who made amazing but pricey drinks. Howen knew that this was another one of her schemes to get Xingwang's wallet out. She wanted to make him face reality if he really was faking this display of wealth. While she was scheming, he was casing the club for influencers who might become potential business partners to make more cash in the future. Shinwo did not like being ignored. When he finally looked her way, Jinuo proposed that they play dice to stomp the boredom down. He seemed receptive to the idea and asked how the game worked. Shinwo didn't just want to play a normal game of dice. She wanted something more exciting. If you lose, you take off a piece of clothing. But you can bail yourself out of stripping with 10,000 instead. Xingwang smirked at the audacity of this woman. He stood before the witch and reminded her that he used to be the company's operations manager, and he knew all about her info and skills. He knew this girl was a dice expert. Ordinary people could not beat her. Realizing that her plan to humiliate and extort money had backfired before it even started, Jinuo was stun-locked. Xingwang started going off. He knew what this girl was thinking. A mere operations guy earning 5,000 a month with no bright future ahead was pretending to be rich. He already knew that she was toxic trash from the start, but he wanted to let things slide to keep his night with Howen fun. But it led to him being seen as an easy target. He wasn't stupid or a pushover. He could see through Zinuo's disdain completely. So the system rewarded him for standing up for himself and exposing another person's scheme. It netted him a cool million, pushing his current balance to 1.89 mil. Xingwang did not deny that he did not come from a rich family. Shinwo immediately took this as a confession to support her case that he was just pretending. He was not done speaking though. Suddenly, the laid-back Xingwang was gone as he flaunted his power. Instead of playing dice, he would gladly give her 300,000 to strip all her clothes and walk out of the bar naked. Feeling uncomfortable, Shinwo played the damsel in distress role perfectly. Howen had to step in and defuse the situation, urging him to sit down and play with her for a while instead. Seeing him back up, Shinwo started back up again, telling him that he did not have 300,000 yuan to throw around carelessly. He just replied by addressing the whole bar and treating everyone to 300,000 yuan worth of drinks. That's the literal definition of FU money. His golden card shimmered with the bar lights. A fugue bar employee worked quickly and discreetly to swipe his card and confirm the payment. The spotlight was on Xingwang as the ladies and the boys looked up to the big spender. None of them were expecting a whole night of free drinking, and most of them were already drunk. Treating the whole bar was a display of generosity and extravagance, so the system rewarded Xingwang with more than 600,000 yuan. That number seemed kind of sussy though. Shinwo was stunned as she watched Xingwang casually throw 300k to strangers. He passed by her and whispered that he did not care if she looked down on him. He never intended to make her respect him anyway. His sights were set higher. After all, vindictive people like Sinuo were nothing more than ants. She had a bad habit of looking at other people's wallets. These types of people could easily be humiliated by money. Xingwang sat down, and everyone was eerily silent. Shinwo followed suit, hanging her head low in shame while he looked at her. Qingqing could sense the tension in the air and looked to Howen for an answer. Unable to stomach the shame and humiliation, Shinwo excused herself for the night, faking a smile as though she was supposed to do something else tonight. But as soon as she got far from the booth, she ran away with tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile, Xingwang was just playing with the dice she had left on the table. He told Qingqing and Howen to continue having fun, as he would be picking up the tab for everyone in the bar anyway. But they were interrupted by another girl who recognized Howen. She asked if Howen's stream today was a failure and if she came to the bar to drink her sorrows away. The stranger hammered down the fact that Howen's top fan was spending less and less. Howen had just gotten out of work and did not want to talk about this stuff in the club. Miss Stranger continued tormenting her for acting innocent and flaunting her charms with a fake sense of purity. Finally ticked off, Howen swiped the stranger's hand away, staring daggers right into the girl's soul. Xingwang quietly watched as this all went down. Instead of leaving, the strange girl sat in the booth and proposed that they should not pass up a good opportunity to stream together. So, Jie went live and greeted her viewers while introducing Howen. She also asked her viewers if they would like to see a live PK in the bar. Jie acted helpless while telling the chat that Howen was not feeling the challenge and urged them to convince her to agree. Immediately, her phone notifications blew up with all sorts of requests for her to take the challenge. Jie had set this scenario up. Her big shots were ready to support her tonight to finally surpass Howen as the top dance streamer. It would only be a matter of time before those top fans made their move. For now, Howen had to take a phone call from the agency. As expected, it was the executives pressuring her to go live immediately and not miss the opportunity to trend, even though she was not in good condition. The higher-ups had already paid for promotion, and if she did not start streaming, there would be consequences. While Jie entertained her chat, Howen dejectedly came up to her after being forced to take the challenge. When asked if she was scared, the top dance streamer just urged the number 2 to get started. The people cleared the dance floor to give the two plenty of space to duke it out. As soon as the music started, each one took a gracious pose for the camera. Ching monitored the chat on her phone and saw many rockets and yachts flying all over the screen. Howen was starting to lose against the challenger. Say what you want about Jie, but she was a shrewd businesswoman for this planned PK challenge alone. On the other hand, Howen wasn't feeling 100% healthy in the first place. Some of her chatters were starting to talk badly about her dancing. It did not help that she was losing the donation war too. She did not have her top fan brother Z in the chat after all. Seeing this setup, Xingwang immediately realized that Jie was playing dirty and cornering Howen. Howen was supposed to be the undisputed number 1 in her category, but she was being crushed in donations. Fortunately, the outcome was still uncertain, and the first rocket tip on Howen's side brought a twist to the competition. The donation came from a mysterious figure known only as Big Brother. Howen was genuinely grateful for the generous donation, and took a second to thank her anonymous benefactor. But it did not stop there, as a second, third, and fourth rocket surged forth, tipping the scales in Howen's favor slightly. Meanwhile, Jie was too worried that Howen would bounce back and continue her dominance. She had never heard of a hidden Big Brother in Howen's chat, so this was disconcerting. But this cunning girl had a rabid fanbase who would gladly empty their wallets just to see her win. Despite her best efforts to rally her supporters, the mounting pressure was palpable. On the other hand, Howen was just staring at her phone screen in shock as the rockets continued to come in. Everyone was wondering the same thing. Who was this Big Brother? He had donated over $1 million in just a short amount of time. Some speculated that her agency was forcefully promoting her, but spending this much on one talent was unlikely, as the platform takes a massive cut of 60 to 70%. Xingwang was just watching from afar, getting bored of all the commotion. His system had given him $5 million more for letting his money flow like water with no pretenses. Howen had stopped dancing altogether, but the big spender kept on tipping. Some even thought that a kid must have gotten hold of a phone and clicked by mistake. But the culprit was just inside the bar, covertly tapping on his phone, each tap representing ungodly amounts of money. The stream shot up to the top of the trending page. New viewers came in to watch the millionaire flex his money. Even when Howen asked if she could catch her breath, the rockets never stopped launching. By now, 2,000 rockets had been sent in a small PK contest. Jie's diamond-level big shots group was in chaos, refusing to lose to a single big spender. For the sake of their girl, they needed to fork out some serious cash too. Because of this, Jie's progress bar started fighting back as rockets were launched one after another. She personally and adorably thanked Time Revealer and Old Kang for their continued support and their rockets. One of her top fans had wanted a private video from her before. He was rich and generous, so he definitely wouldn't miss the chance to play the hero. That man was Boss Tong, and with him joining the rocket war while Howen's side died down, victory seemed within reach. Xingwang quietly laughed to himself as he sat down and looked at his phone. He tapped on the screen as fast as humanly possible. This quick succession of taps represented another 100 rockets sent to Howen. The system congratulated him for becoming the new top Big Brother in Howen's chat and rewarded him with another 10 million. With a boost in his bank account, Xingwang continued flaunting his wealth by sending 500 more rockets. This little contest was practically an infinite money glitch for his system. By the end of the last song, Howen was declared the winner of the PK match. She thanked everyone who supported her, especially this new Big Brother. To cap off the celebration, Big Brother sent another 1,000 rockets to congratulate Howen. This last donation made Xingwang the top daily donator on the entire platform. This earned him another 10 million, and for his efforts in sending the rockets, another 1 million was added. Howen politely thanked Big Brother for the support that won her the PK match and brought in a lot of attention. It was the first time she had reached millions of live viewers at once. She was grateful, but ended with the message that everyone works hard for their money and should not waste it on a streamer like her. Her display of humility just made her audience adore her even more. This was the charm of a pure and unpretentious woman. Jie stared at her phone in defeat. All the effort she put in was for nothing against a single donator. In the end, she had only helped Howen rise to even greater fame. That girl had received tens of millions in donations in one go. This was a single-day achievement that even top streamers could not easily attain. With the contest wrapped up, Xingwang got up from his seat and yawned, yearning to rest in his bed. He found Jie sulking in a corner and praised her for having so many big brothers willing to support her. He urged her to work hard and maybe surpass Howen someday. It definitely stung to hear that after a fresh loss. Ching and Howen knew that. Jie was stuck reconsidering her life choices in the middle of the club, while the party of three exited the premises. Outside, Ching could not stop talking about Jie's humiliation. She was just glad that karma had done its thing and made Jie's plan backfire. As a streamer herself, she was in awe of this super rich big brother who could spend money like he was the #1 tycoon on the platform. Surprisingly, Howen did not seem excited at all. She confessed that she felt unworthy of it. Tens of millions had just entered her bank account from a fan she had never seen on her stream before, leaving her with a sense of unease that was hard to shake. Qingqing urged her to wake up and treasure this godsend of a donator. Qingqing herself wanted to get close to this generous big brother. She took the user ID from Howen and brazenly sent a private message to the big tipper. As soon as she pressed send, Xingwang's phone lit up with a message notification. When the ringtone sounded, the girls looked behind them suspiciously. It was the official notification of the streaming app, so it seemed too much of a coincidence. Howen also felt that Xingwang could be connected to what happened earlier. He tried to deny their suspicions that he was the big brother. Without a cover story ready, he struggled to make it believable. Xingwang claimed he was just dealing with numerous private messages from different businesses. But just a moment ago, he had spent millions, and the big brother would need to be worth at least billions. Using this reasoning, Xingwang pretended that he couldn't afford to spend tens of millions in minutes. Qingqing also noticed the similarities between Big Brother Wang and Xingwang's name. To change the subject and finally wrap up the day, Howen offered to drive him home. Since he lived near Longhu New City, which was out of her way, he insisted on just getting a cab. Their plan to head home was abruptly interrupted by a drunken man who had just stumbled out of the club, casting a tense atmosphere over the scene. Based on her defeated reaction, it seemed like Howen knew this man already. In fact, everyone knew this man. He was Xingwang's former boss. The man started running his mouth about how unemployed people shouldn't be going to bars while relying on women to pay. Howen immediately spoke up to clarify that they were the ones relying on Xingwang tonight for dinner and drinks. The belligerent boss was shocked to hear such a ridiculous thing. He interpreted what she said as Howen kindly covering for the poor guy's dignity. Drunk boss argued that everyone's bill had been taken care of by a mysterious person, so it should not be possible for Xingwang to treat the girls to drinks. He continued calling Xingwang a poor man who didn't have much aside from his sweet talk to charm women. Qingqing decided to step in too, insisting that Xingwang had treated everyone in the bar. The drunk boss immediately lashed out, telling her to shut up. He told Qingqing to stop being so cocky after gaining a few fans when all those fans were fake. This comment surprised and confused the carefree girl, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. It was a harsh reminder that her success was not entirely her own, and it shook her confidence. Drunk boss proudly revealed that the company had spent a lot on Qingqing's promotion, even buying fake followers. All she did was do her makeup without securing any ad deals. Qingqing was essentially a money-losing asset, unlike Howen, who could dance for a single night and bring millions to the agency. Without stopping, the boss suggested that Qingqing should wear less during her tutorials on stream, instead of pretending to be pure. Maybe she could also go down the route of a dance streamer. As for Howen, he offered her a supporting role in a TV drama, saying he could make it happen if she agreed to spend the night with him. Before the drunken boss could get his grubby hands near Howen, Xingwang, fueled by a sense of justice, grabbed his hand with force. The power struggle was palpable as he stared his previous boss in the eyes and told him to show some respect to the ladies. Annoyed, the boss swiped his hand away and called Xingwang a lowlife trying to play the hero. He mocked Xingwang, asking if he could provide Howen with the resources she needed while wearing a knockoff LV bag covered in logos. Xingwang had heard enough of the drunk's senseless ranting, so he told him to get lost. Howen looked at his determined expression and saw a spark there. He looked just like a knight in shining armor. She stood up for herself, her voice steady and her eyes fierce, as she threatened to terminate her contract with the company if she was harassed again. The boss, Manager He, listened to her threats and laughed. He reminded her that she had signed a 5-year contract with the company with 1 more year left. If she forced an early termination, she would have to pay a 10 million penalty. With the money she earned tonight and her previous savings, she could easily afford that much. Knowing this was true, Manager He grew even more enraged. He started calling influencers the modern-day courtesans, claiming they were not selling art, but their bodies. He said he had no patience for fake purity. He also warned that even if she could pay the penalty, the company would never let Howen go. No one in their right mind would abandon a cash cow who continuously brought in money. If she resisted, he threatened, blacklisting her in the industry would be easy with just 1 word from the real boss. Xingwang stepped in to save the struggling Howen. He proclaimed that if she couldn't leave, it would be fine. He could just buy Meow Meow Media itself. If that happened, the one leaving the company wouldn't be Howen. It would be this lecherous Manager He. The seriousness in the young man's voice sobered Manager He up. Then a look of pure disdain crept up on his ugly mug. He started tapping and poking Xingwang as if he were speaking to something less than human. He sarcastically retorted that he would be waiting for the broke bastard to save up and buy the company. He ended the interaction with a rude spit as he went back inside the bar. He did not like seeing other guys trying to show off in front of him at all. Nevertheless, the damage was done. Qingqing's enthusiasm from earlier was gone and replaced by dread and confusion. She started wondering if all her viewers were really fake, just bots and paid watchers. Howen noticed that her friend was starting to spiral down a dangerous path. Qingqing loved her livestream fans. She appreciated those big shots that threw money at her, and thinking that the company was behind it all was making her question everything. Thankfully, Howen, her friend, was there to ground her in reality. Qingqing had a lot of people watching her makeup streams. He was just trying to put her down and manipulate her into thinking that she owed everything to the company so she would remain obedient. Haowen knew better than to be upset by that scumbag's words, but Qingqing did not. Xingwang watched the girls console each other and could not help but feel affected. Haowen expressed her gratitude to him for standing up against that bastard manager. Qingqing also did her part and clarified things, even though they ended up pissing off the manager. If it had not been for this incident, she would have never known that the company looked down on their talents so much. Qingqing was done feeling sorry for herself, and was now extremely angry. Haowen turned to Xingwang and asserted that they were just former colleagues, and he did not have to stand up for her like that. He smiled brightly and assured her that it was fine. He had disliked that bastard boss for a while, so it was nice to blow up for once. Haowen smiled too, slowly seeing the charm of the young man. It was still unsure whether they would get a chance to meet again, but she wished him well and hoped that Xingwang would soar high now that he was on his own. The co-workers got a lot closer that night. As they exchanged their goodbyes, they shook each other's hands. A mutual respect had formed between the two. Haowen and Qingqing drove away to head back home. Xingwang was left on the side of the road after insisting on taking a cab by himself. He was so focused on sending rockets earlier that his big brother identity almost got revealed by a notification sound. By the end of the day, his bank account balance had reached a whopping 109 million yuan. He was about to reach billionaire status at this rate. Before celebrating this massive leap in life, he looked up ways to go back home. A train ticket would be far too normal, so he chose to book a flight. The plane tickets were quite expensive, even though it was just a domestic flight. The green train he had taken before was only a bit over 300 yen, so seeing the price tags on the plane tickets was quite jarring. Xingwang sighed and tapped on the booking confirmation. Splurging on transportation should not be a problem from now on. Shihao Airlines scammed 4,000 yen out of his pockets, but it should lead to a smoother ride back home. Also, the system gave him 10,000 for selecting the most expensive first-class choice. For tonight, Xingwang went straight back to the dorm room to get some much-needed rest. After the eventful night out, his peaceful rest stretched into late in the morning. He would have stayed serenely stuck to the bed if it were not for the aggressive knocking on his door and the landlady's grating voice asking for rent payment. Hearing her voice automatically made Xingwang's body wake up in distress and annoyance. The same thing always happened every month, a week before the rent's due date. This landlady had nothing better to do than nag for payments. He was practically traumatized by this psychological torture, no matter how hard he tried to cover his ears. At 6 a.m., he finally decided to get out of bed and face the problem head-on. The landlady's knocks never stopped all the way through. When he opened the door with his phone in hand, the landlady started going on about how young people were so lazy that they had to be constantly reminded of their responsibilities. Without talking to the lady, Xingwang quickly scanned the QR code she was carrying and sent the money over. He paid one whole year of rent in one go, stunning the strict landlady. Her phone notified her that 10,000 yuan had been successfully received, but as far as she knew, this broke Xingwang should not have this kind of money to pay at once. She was starting to get suspicious. There was even an extra 400 yuan in the transfer. Xingwang just called it a service fee, so she would never nag him for rent for a whole year. After sleepily yawning at her face, he slammed the door closed, leaving the loud landlady speechless. She wanted to argue with him, but she could not think of anything else to bring up. Xingwang finally had some peace and got back to bed. Since the flight he booked was leaving at 10, he reckoned that he could stay in bed for 3 more hours. His roommate, the guy on the lower bunk of the bunk bed, asked if he had hit the jackpot or something. He couldn't really respond since he had drifted off to dreamland once more. Paying an entire year's rent and even tipping the landlord showed off the new heights he had reached. For that, the system rewarded him with a villa in Swan Bay of Sang City. No matter how sleepy he was, that system notification was enough to wake anyone up. He analyzed the system's message carefully to double-check if he read it right. Not only did he own a house now, but he also held the keys to his new villa. His roommate just looked at Xing.
I think you kinda like this video, so just subscribe and like.